Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. Real Estate Coaching Radio is the nation's #1 daily radio show for realtors who demand authentic, real-time coaching. Get ready for fluff-free, unfiltered, full-strength honesty about what's truly working to get you into action, helping others, and making money now in today's real estate market. Now to our hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
3, 2, 1, and we're back. It is February the 3rd. Sorry you guys caught us midstream talking about Zoe. I was just telling Julie about a conversation I had with Zoe this morning that I still can't stop laughing about that is a little off color, so I won't share on our podcast. But this is Real Estate Coaching Radio.
It is.
The nation's #1 listened to daily podcast for real estate agents. And I always like to show as much gratitude and appreciation as I can. Thank you for all of you who continue to make this the #1 listen to daily podcast for real estate professionals in the United States. We've been receiving more accolades from most recently from Motley Fool said we're one of the best real estate podcasts. The only one that they suggested more than ours was the podcast from National Association of Realtors, which, okay, fine. If we got,
we'll take it.
Then we'll take it. And just all these other nice things that are happening. And I want to always make sure that we're showing a lot of gratitude towards those of you who are listening to us internationally. It's really amazing for us to be able to learn more about your markets because as we see, we're getting listeners from Angola and Zimbabwe and over the Middle East and places in China and just all these different places. Like 1 or 2 listens is sort of an aberration, but when we start seeing people listen in the dozens and then the hundreds, it's obviously resonating with a lot of people. So we love the fact that we are able to say things in such a way that I think really cut through the Mickey Mouse of what it takes to be successful in real estate and maybe just in small business in general. And there certainly is a lot of noise out there, and a lot of you guys find us after having been caught in the storm of noise, and we appreciate that you appreciate us for giving you some clarity in your business. So, Julie, before we get to the big breaking news story,
Yes.
This article actually, ironically enough, from the Motley Fool, anything you'd like to say to these guys from your coaching calls today?
I think that we're actually covering a lot more ground with our new format for our Premier Coaching clients. Mm-hmm. The pace is a bit faster, and it's interesting because these are live calls. You never really know. It's live. You don't know what questions you're going to get. Sometimes it's all complicated negotiating strategies and that kind of thing. And other times it's very educational, contextual. Well, today was all about FHA, which was very random.
You're preaching to the choir again, right?
Yeah.
So these are podcast listeners, and not all of them know what you're talking about. So as part of our Premier Coaching, you have a daily semi-private coaching call on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Julie does that. So it's a Facebook Live event. It's on our private members page, and it's a huge success. People love it. It's a great way for the community to just hang out with each other, ask questions, and get all the toughest real estate questions answered. One of the things Julie and I'll attend in the audience when Julie's doing this, and I'll just read the questions. And the thing that's really fascinating is how, to Julie's point, how much more ground is being covered because of the fact that a lot of times that other students are helping each other. Yeah. And we have questions being answered while there's other questions that are being asked of Julie. It's really amazing how just after doing that for maybe a month or two, how dynamic it's become. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But it is a great insight to see what's going on in the market and what they most need help with. And even agents that have done a ton of deals, maybe like today we did a lot about FHA. You could have done 50 deals and never seen FHA.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's pretty interesting. And it's always a pleasure to be there.
We had a lot of great feedback from the podcast we did yesterday where we're talking about whatever looming distressed real estate there might be out there. If you guys didn't listen to that, make sure you go back and listen to that. Again, it's something that you need to be aware of. I don't think you necessarily need to be worried about. And for those of you who have never experienced distressed real estate before, and those of you who've been in the real estate distressed markets before, yesterday was just essentially a shot over the bow to prepare you for what's probably going to be happening next. So listen to the show. We've laid out the framework for you to essentially cover your bases in the event that the markets were to start turning quicker. Because everything, if it does start to come unraveled, it won't be like it was back in 07 and 08. And this time around, there's no doubt that the government intervention is going to certainly stop any sort of perilous drop in housing prices. So today we're talking about something that is probably going to make a minority of you, but certainly some of you, uncomfortable. And that's okay because you need to hear it anyway. There was an article that came out today from the Motley Fool, and the article's title was, "Who is the Amazon of Real Estate?" ? And it said, hint, it's not Zillow. So there's no way to express to you what this article conveys other than just to basically read it. And Julie, when you are reading it, make sure you skip some of the more analytical stuff with regards to, the stock
you can
values
always
and
interrupt
whatnot.
me if I go down the
Right.
path.
And I want to start out by reminding all of you, Julie and I are not stock traders, stock advisors,
Nope.
financial investors, financial advisors, and whatnot. This is just an article that's addressing something that caught my eye because it is something that all of you need to be aware of, and that Amazon obviously is essentially the biggest retailer in the world. And for the financial markets start to see a real estate company as essentially equivalent in terms of the effect that it'll have on consumer behavior is something all of you must be paying attention to. It's what Julie and I have been talking about with you guys for the last 2 years, that EXP Realty is going to be the macro trend, the mega trend that everyone's going to be wishing they would have focused on, years ago, because the EXP business model is something that's so compelling that agents around the country, no matter what their price range or what their market is, they're definitely asking questions about it. And if you don't believe me, get ready to listen to what this article has to say. And some of the stuff about the revenue is incredible. I didn't even realize how, for example, the different ways that Zillow reports their revenue versus EXP reports its revenue. When Julie gets to that section,
It's interesting.
it is interesting because it makes you like, when I was reading the article originally, I was thinking, how the hell can two companies be both of them real estate companies? How can one company essentially claim their revenue as this, Zillow, and another company says their real as Zillow is that, EXP, and EXP is just basing it on real revenue, which is the money from commissions. And
yeah.
Zillow's including the value of the houses being sold. I don't even understand
The value of the houses they still own, not
Right.
even sold yet.
Right. I don't even understand how it's actually all transactions, including the gross value of the houses and the
Okay.
commissions. I can't even remotely understand why that is how those two things to be used for valuing a company. But we'll talk about that in a second. Before we do, I want to remind all of you, it's not too late for you to download your 2021 real estate business plan. Just text 2021 to 855-685-1045. Text 2021 to 855-685-1045. And when you do, we'll text you back the real estate treasure map, which will allow you instant access to the treasure map, Think and Grow Rich for Real Estate, your 12-month lead generation guide, and a lot of other books that you need to build out your 2021 business plan. Do not delay. Frankly, you should have had this done already, but it's not too late. So text 2021 to 855-685-1045. So, Jules?
Yes.
You have a lot of reading to do.
Very interesting stuff here. So pay attention, guys. The title of the article, Who is the Amazon of Real Estate? Amazon, of course, is the king of internet retail, but internet retail is a vast opportunity. And in some sectors, Amazon isn't competing at all. For instance, housing and automobiles are two huge sectors of the retail economy, and Amazon is not a factor with that. Will the internet radically shift how we buy and sell homes? Of course, but the trick is to figure out which company is going to win this race. Who is going to be the Amazon of real estate? Maybe it's Zillow or Opendoor, the companies leading the iBuyer revolution. Or maybe it's Redfin, another company that's trying to shift the real estate market online. But I'm seeing a winner, and it's none of those companies. The company that's actually winning by leaps and bounds is EXP World Holdings.
All right, so we're going to move on past their pictures and their graphics. You can skip this section right here. They get to that in a second.
Okay, don't believe me? Well, let's look at some of the revenue growth rates. If you want to call yourself the Amazon of anything, you'd better have massive revenue growth. I expect a high percentage of growth like what Carvana does in automobiles or what Sea Limited does in Southeast Asia. I'd like to see triple-digit percentage growth. Here's what Zillow, Redfin, and EXP World are doing in virtual real estate sales.
Okay, so now I'm going to read you guys these numbers, and then I'm going to have to clarify it because some of this is confusing. Don't be confused by the importance of what I'm about to share with you. So third quarter revenue for 2019, third quarter revenue, which Zillow, again, I foreshadowed this a second ago, is including all the value of all the houses they've sold. Let me just break that into real estate terms. So when you hear a real estate agent saying they sold $10 million worth of houses, they may have sold $10 million worth of houses, but their actual revenue was the commission that came off the $10 million of houses, right? So whatever their commission was of $10 million was what their real revenue was. So if it was say it's a who knows what their commission was? Say it was 6% or 5% or 4%. It's that percent of the $10 million. You understand this, right,
It's not
listeners?
the 10 million plus the 6%.
It's not the 10 million, right? So what Zillow is doing is actually, Julie, I said it wrong before. That's the value of the houses they've sold, not commissions.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, so what Zillow is doing is they're counting the value of the houses being sold in 2019 third quarter of $745 million, and the value of the homes, and they're calling this revenue, the value of the homes they sold in 2020 it's $657 million. Revenue growth was $11 million. Now, it's really important you understand this. They are talking about the total value of the homes they sold, not the commissions that they earned. Yeah, I said 11%, didn't I?
You said million.
Oh, revenue growth was 11%.
Parentheses means it's down. Look, that was going down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So Redfin. Oh, everyone talks about Redfin being the big, grill on the scene. It turned out that's not quite true. So Redfin, third quarter revenue. Now I'm going to assume Redfin is actually using real numbers. I'm going to assume that they're using commissions, unlike Zillow, which was using the value of the real estate sold. I could be wrong, but I bet you Redfin is using real numbers, where Zillow is using, I don't know what you want to call it. It must be real enough that the financial markets are willing to accept that as a true revenue statement. So Redfin, again, third quarter 2019, $239 million. Third quarter of 2020 is $237 million. Well, that would be down 0.7%. So that's not good, right?
Yeah, that's
now,
not good.
Here we go. Ready for this, listeners? EXP World Holdings, ticker symbol on NASDAQ is EXPI. You could tell Julie and I aren't used to talking about this stuff on our podcast. Third quarter revenue 2019, $282 million. You ready for this one? Third quarter revenue 2020, $564 million.
Wow.
Up 99.9%. You know what? Why couldn't we have just
Why don't you just round it up?
What the hell? EXP, you dropped the ball. You should have gone 100%.
Close.
But remember, that's commissions. That's not what Zillow was
crazy.
doing, which is kind of, in my opinion, fudging their numbers. Yeah. When we take on a real estate agent's team or a brokerage or even an individual in our coaching business, and they always tell us about their top line gross revenue, of the homes sold, and and 99% of the time, they won't know the rest of their numbers. And the rest of the numbers are what you pay your bills with. The top line number is almost completely irrelevant. It's what you actually net that makes the biggest difference. Now, that dramatic outperformance, there's no way to buy shares in Zillow, this guy goes on to say, currently valued at $30 billion. Now, that's an important number. I don't know if you caught that, Jules.
Yes.
So Zillow basically has a third quarter revenue. Remember, that's the total value of the homes they sold, not the commissions they earned, of $657 million. I'm sure that also includes the money they make selling you guys buyer leads. Why you're buying buyer leads, I'll never understand. But Zillow is currently valued at $30 billion. All right. When the company's revenue is going in the wrong direction, I'd much rather have a piece of the $7 billion EXP world. What about Opendoor, the original name of the iBuyer space? Are its sales dramatically spiking? No, they're not. Opendoor recently went public after a merger with SPAC late last year. While it hasn't broken out quarterly numbers yet, its numbers from the first half of the year are also negative. Revenue actually dropped from $2.2 billion to $1.9 billion. Now, what they're trying to imply here, and again, Jules and I are not financial folks, but we're just passing this along, is that you're seeing these companies being valued, and this is someone actually comparing one to the other. And we're seeing that, in essence, those other companies, in particular Redfin, well, now he's mentioning Opendoor and Zillow, are having valuations that are higher than EXP, despite the fact that EXP is obviously producing more genuine revenue, and by the way, more actual profit than those companies are.
And the growth is way positive versus basically negative on the other ones.
Right. And what he is implying in this article, if I'm reading this correctly, is that EXP right now is presently undervalued. Yeah. If you were to value EXP at the same formula that you're valuing Zillow for, then EXP would be worth significantly more than what it's currently valued at. Thus, the reason that, probably one of the many reasons that EXP, the stock is on a tear right now. The stock, again, we're not stock picking experts here, but in the last 2 years, it's gone from like $6.30, $6.50, and yesterday it closed at over $120 a share. So you can read the next one.
Yes. So why is EXP World winning? One important distinction is the difference in the business models. EXP World is not trying to reinvent the wheel. Unlike Zillow and Opendoor, this company does not own any properties. As a matter of fact, this distinction in the business model can lead to investor confusion.
Oh, here we go.
You might think Zillow, with its $745 million in revenue, is much bigger than EXP World, but you'd be wrong. The accounting of Zillow's revenue numbers includes the value of the houses the company owns and then sells. EXP World's numbers are based purely on commissions it makes. EXP sold over $23 billion worth of houses in the most recent quarter, dwarfing Zillow.
Now think about that, what you just read. So if we were to use the same way that Zillow values themselves, the same essentially, matrix and using the actual revenue based on the sale prices of the houses, and if you were to apply that to EXP, they're saying right here that EXP sold over $23 billion worth of houses in the most recent quarter.
Yeah, and Zillow was $745 million in their quasi revenue.
Isn't that incredible?
It is
to think
incredible.
about?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Keep going.
All right. It's important you guys understand all of this. I think it's amazing. This is kind of a big deal. Anybody can have triple-digit percentage revenue growth if they're growing off of a tiny base. But EXP World is a significantly larger operation than Zillow already. And instead of catching up in house sales, Zillow is falling behind. Consider, too, how much risk there is in the iBuyer stocks. What these companies are suggesting is that you can cut out the middleman. That's some of our previous podcasts we talked about.
Yep.
The promise of the iBuyers is you can sell your own house quickly and easily. While that's great news for consumers, it's a tremendous risk for investors. If the real estate market sinks or crashes, the iBuyer companies can get stuck holding on to a lot of real estate. One of the protagonists in The Big Short, Steve Eisman, shorted Zillow for that very reason. Okay, while it's possible that the entire real estate market will shift and everybody will sell their own home to Zillow and Opendoor and the rest of the iBuyer universe, it's also possible that real estate agents will remain highly relevant. What if Eisman is right and selling real estate is a local business with many factors that are hard to quantify on a computer? What if speed is not the most important issue for you and you'd rather get top dollar?
So here's where we're going with this. And obviously this article doesn't talk much about the fact, at least I don't think it does, talking about the fact that that EXP actually, it does.
Yeah.
Okay, well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Awesome
I didn't mean
article.
to interrupt
That's
you.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
It goes on to say realtors are rocking at EXP World. While the iBuyer companies believe that realtors will be made irrelevant, EXP World has the completely opposite focus. It has built its internet platform from the ground to help realtors sell houses. EXP World now has over 30, I think it's even more than that, isn't it?
40, over 40,000, like 42 or 43,000 real estate agents on its platform. Yep.
Yep, it's a virtual real estate office, so they have no brick and mortar operations. Keep going. Okay.
You can skip this
Yeah,
part. Well,
because-
no, we shouldn't skip any of it.
Yeah, some of them
I'll
haven't
read
been
it. Agents
exposed.
at EXP World are on an 80-20 split until they pay in a $16,000 cap to the brokerage every year. After they pay in the $16,000 cap to the brokerage, the agent keeps 100% commissions for the rest of the year. The difference from all the other agencies is that the commission take commission on every sale. In other words, they're saying basically EXP has a cap. There's other companies that have caps as well, but most companies have a higher cap than $16,000. And I'll tell you something interesting also about EXP. It's a $16,000 cap no matter where your market is. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of these other companies, if the sale price is higher and you're selling in some posh area,
they make the cap higher.
You're right. I've had agents I've talked to whose caps are $50,000, $60,000 a year, right? In EXP in that same market, their cap's going to be $16,000. Well, look at commercial agents, for example. Mm-hmm. Commercial agents are almost always on a 50-50 split forever. At EXP, your commercial agent, EXP has a commercial agency, right? And your cap is $20,000 a year. So in every case, agents are going to save a lot of money. Even if they're at a company where the commission split might be less, EXP has a lot of other advantages that they're going to get to as Julie is about to read.
Yeah, so I just felt the earth shift with the commercial agents perking up going, you mean after that $20,000 cap, they go to 100% too, right?
Jules, I have had personally, because Julie and I are with EXP, and if you guys want to talk about joining Julie and I's EXP team, please just text me directly at 512-758-0206. 512-758-0206. But I've had numerous commercial agents that have joined our group and joined EXP where they will save hundreds of thousands of dollars moving over to EXP. Hundreds of thousands. I've had individual agents. The biggest one I had was an individual agent who, in his first year at EXP, he did increase his sales slightly, but the amount of money he would have paid to his broker versus his old broker versus what he paid to EXP was over $350,000. That's an individual agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one way to make your product profit.
And he
isn't
bought
it?
a lake house, by the way.
Yeah, there you go.
He did. He paid cash for it, too.
That's amazing.
With the savings.
Awesome. Okay. Also, if an agent brings other agents to the company, that recruiting agent gets 3.5% of their future commissions up to the $16,000 cap is hit. So a lot of agents are recruiting other agents to join EXP World, and it helps the company retain agents because you have to stay in order to collect on the passive revenue streams. This is perhaps why EXP World is rocking it right now, and Redfin is not. They have superior compensation structure for top agents, and in general, there's far better execution at EXP World. The company has introduced express offers to compete with the iBuyers. If you want to sell your house quickly, an agent will help you field multiple bids from institutional buyers for your house right away. So EXP World does not have to take the ownership risk. And this shows that
That's huge.
You know, the comparison was the iBuyer companies, right? Like
Right.
Zillow and Opendoor. Well, EXP is having its cake and eating it too.
Well, we talked about this on past podcasts.
Yeah, I know.
If you're
awesome.
an agent, and this is the reason this is so important, guys. If you're an agent and you want to be relevant in the industry, next year, let alone 6 months from now, you're going to have an iBuyer widget in your toolbox when you go to talk to sellers, because Zillow and all these other companies, they're definitely going to put the thought in the head of all your sellers, even your centers of influence and past clients, that they don't necessarily have to take the traditional route to selling a house. And if you don't have an iBuyer option to present to your clients, even if they don't take it, you're going to be obsolete. Not appear obsolete, you're going to be obsolete. When you're an agent at EXP, you can actually have access to EXP's Express Offers program, and you can have your own iBuyer program. That way, when you go out to talk to sellers, you'll have the exact same tools to offer your clients that that the iBuyers do. In some of these markets, like Vegas and whatnot, the agents there, you guys know what I'm talking about. The iBuyer ads are fierce. And if you're not with EXP, how are you going to compete with those companies? You're just going to keep on saying, well, Mr. Seller, you don't want to have to take a lower price. They're going to just offer you wholesale. I got news for you guys. A lot of sellers are going to want to take a wholesale price because they're going to want to save the hassle. Or maybe they inherited the property. Or maybe, ease of sale takes priority over the amount of money that they're going to receive in their proceeds check. There's a lot of reasons that sellers will take less than retail for the house, and you have to be ready to have that as an option, or you won't get the lead. But here's the other thing. Really smart agents, really smart EXP agents, frankly, are using the Express Offers widget to attract sellers, and then they, of course, will offer the seller the easy sell through the Express Offers. The seller will say, well, that's an option. What other options do you have for me? And then the agent then pivots and lists the house as a traditional listing, with the plan B always being the Express Offers, sitting in the shadows in the event that the seller changes their motivation once it's sold faster. Not a real problem in a market like this, but you guys can see in a transitioning market how having an iBuyer back you up is going to be something you must have if you want to be relevant in getting listings. And those of you who are still buying buyer leads, you don't have to buy buyer leads anymore if you have tools like this, because you're going to have an unfair advantage in the marketplace going after sellers.
That's right. And EXP World has also acquired Virbela, a virtual world platform that helps people sell houses online. This is another similarity with Amazon. The company has a lot of optionality. Now EXP World is talking about competing with Zoom video communications and virtual meetings. So if you want to invest in the Amazon of real estate, I'd suggest taking a look at EXP World. Again, that's EXPI. At a market cap of $7 billion, the upside potential is amazing.
What should you?
That's the end.
Oh, that's an ad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The rest is an ad. Well, there you go. So this is something I think all of you need to be aware of. It's interesting to me to see the financial markets wake up to a huge opportunity being at EXP, or frankly, in this author's perspective, buying EXP stock, EXPI. But the greatest opportunity is definitely for agents, because when you're an agent at EXP, not only do you most likely have a better commission split, but you're almost certainly going to profit from the revenue share, and you're going to profit from the various ways that you can receive a stock and stock awards, buying the stock at a discount. There are many, many agents right now that are experiencing more financial abundance in their lives than they frankly would have ever been able to had it not been for the genius behind EXP Realty. You need to take this seriously. If there's one thing that can have the most impact on your business this year, aside from becoming a listing agent, frankly, it's going to be becoming an EXP agent. The benefits to you won't just be immediate in terms of saving money from what you would otherwise would have paid your broker, but it'll be long-term in the form of the revenue share and the stock benefits that you'll get. Guys, take this seriously. Many of you have been listening to Julie and I in this podcast for years. You know we intentionally stayed broker agnostic for years, and until about 2 years ago, when we couldn't anymore, because we finally realized that by not telling you about EXP Realty was essentially us being out of integrity with what our commitment was to all of you and all of our coaching clients, which is always doing what's best for you, always telling you what we thought was the absolute truth, and always doing what we knew would be the absolute best thing for you to do, and coaching you in that direction. And even telling you things sometimes you didn't want to hear when you didn't want to hear it at whatever level you were willing to listen to us say it. And I'm promising you now that EXP Realty is something that every single one of you should be taking a hard look at. It does not matter what your price range is, what your market is, whether you're a new agent. The benefits to new agents are extraordinary. You got a mentor program, all kinds of added benefits. The COVID, if nothing else, has proven that bricks and mortar locations are not necessary from the perspective of consumers and obviously not necessary from the perspective of agents. EXP is going to continue to be one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing residential real estate company in the history of real estate companies. And based on their international growth, what this article didn't even touch on, you're going to see EXP Realty all over the world. I think, I'll have to check, but I think EXP is now in 15 different countries.
I think that's right.
Or 9 different countries. I know they just opened up Puerto Rico last month, though Puerto Rico is not really technically a country. Kind of is. Yeah. I mean,
depends on who you talk to.
Yeah, and we sponsored an agent here, actually a couple agents in Puerto Rico. So this is something, EXP is one of those things like, and I tell this to people when I'm talking to them, when they text me and they're asking questions about EXP. And I used to basically edit this by saying, asking, just knowing what their age was, right? So if they're like in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s and maybe like mid 30s, I felt comfortable saying this. But now I know it's true for everyone. And this is what I'll say. When you guys call me or text me about EXP at 512-758-0206, here's what I'll tell you. And you can hold me accountable to saying this to you because I will. EXP is the last best business opportunity of many of our lives. It's the last best business opportunity. Now, I'm not saying it's the last business opportunity, but it's the last best business opportunity because you can not only make a lot more immediate income from your real estate transactions, not only can you, frankly, sell houses faster because the very supportive, essentially community and culture and technology that's behind EXP, but you're also going to create generational wealth if you take a hard look at the revenue share program, not to mention the stock. So this is the last best business opportunity possibly for all of you listening, unless you're like 17 or 18 years old, then you have time on your hands. But if you're like, say, 35, well, probably 30 and older, good luck stumbling across another opportunity like this. You've already done the hard part, which is getting your real estate license. The easy part is joining EXP. There's no downside to joining EXP. If you get into it and you discover it's not for you, you can always change your mind. You can always go in a different direction, but you won't because all the benefits you're getting. Most agents only get benefits from selling houses. Let's say, for example, you're listing and you're a flat fee broker and you only pay $500 per transaction, but you don't get any revenue share. Well, I didn't even mention the health insurance that they have available to you. You don't have any opportunity at stock in companies like that. So you might be paying less per, only a fee per transaction at your current brokerage.
You're also getting a lot less.
You're getting nothing, right? I mean, what are you getting for that? You're getting usually nothing, basically. No support, nothing. At EXP, they're built around you. I'll tell you the other thing I really love about this company.
What?
Is that EXP doesn't want to become a consumer brand. Mm-hmm. And EXP, in everything that they do, it's very obvious because this company is owned by the agents.
Right.
EXP's, the shares are given to agents in the form of stock awards and whatnot. And a bulk of the shareholders, the biggest shareholders, are all real estate agents. All of us own shares of EXP. So when the company goes up, the shares go up, there's 40,000 plus agents that are celebrating. And even more so, EXP is supposed to have over 100,000 agents at the end of this year. But EXP is truly in the business of servicing agents, and EXP wants you to be the brand. So I'll get calls, people interested in joining EXP, brokers, small teams, and they don't want to give up their brand. They spend a lot of money on it. I totally get it, right?
Years of investment.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. We were that way when we sold real estate. Yep. I totally understand. But the takeaway is EXP doesn't want to dominate your brand. Now, your state law is prohibited. You're governed ultimately by your state laws with regards to prominence. But at the end of the day, you're the brand at EXP, not EXP. You get it?
Yeah, you don't have to give up your logo and your name and your colors even.
It's not a franchise. Yeah. And guys, for you to join EXP, the application fee is $149. That's it. That's your total expense to become an EXP agent. $149. I want you to think about that for a second. So for you to get all these benefits, it's $149. Julie, I was having a call yesterday with somebody, and he was using KV Core, and he was paying KV Core, I think it was $900 or $1,000 a month, and he'd been paying it for years. Mm-hmm. And I explained to him, at EXP, KV Core, the version of it that he had, was included in the $85 a month fee that an EXP agent pays. So right there, just by joining EXP, he was going to save,
and that's not the only
roughly $900 a month,
yeah.
and his commission splits. So he was somebody, I think, if I remember correctly, he's going to sell like 160 houses, him and his team. And he has, I don't remember all the numbers. I have it written down somewhere. But I do remember this. And this is another amazing thing. If you're a top producer at EXP, for example, if you cap and pay your $16,000, if you sell an additional 20 houses or have a total GCI of $500,000, it's either you qualify for the Icon program, which means, and I'm oversimplifying it, but the gist of it is you can get your cap back. So the $16,000 that you paid, you'll be awarded that back in the form of EXPI stock. Now there's some requirements you have to meet, but that's the gist of it. So when I was talking to this agent yesterday, and he was trying to basically, understand how the commissions would be beneficial at EXP and all that, he didn't realize that the Icon program meant that he would most likely, assuming he keeps selling and producing, qualify him for EXPI stock to, essentially cover his cost of his cap. And when he put the other numbers to paper, the amount of money he had saved just purely off the commissions he was paying was extraordinary. Yeah. And every agent I talk to basically is in similar situations. Yeah. And I'll tell you, the ones that actually benefit the most are the ones that are selling the most expensive real estate, because they're the ones that are always paying the most money. Sure. So they'll say, Tim, what are you talking about? I have a 93 or 94% split. Okay, what about that 6% royalty? Right? Yeah,
they never count that.
They don't. Oddly enough.
I know.
So you're in a mid-80s split at best, and there's no cap, right? Okay, let's add up how much you paid last year and compare it to EXP. You would have paid $16,000 here, and at your, whatever company, you paid hundreds of thousands of dollars most likely. And then when people start realizing ultimately how the value proposition that EXP offers, it really is a no-brainer making that decision.
Well, you can't unsee the math once you've actually studied it.
The whole thing, you just touched on something. That's the thing. When I'm talking to people that are, like, say, just getting started understanding it, the disbelief is actually what slows them down. It's like they feel like, oh my gosh, how can this possibly be true? How can this many agents be making this much money passively from revenue share?
Like, what's the catch?
How can this many agents awarding this much stock? How can all this possibly be happening? How is it possibly true? Julie and I just read you an article that was analyzing the actual numbers. EXP is publicly traded. All their math is there. Oh, and this guy didn't talk about the profitability. No. EXP, unlike Open Door and unlike Zillow, I believe, those companies are not making a profit. EXP makes an actual honest-to-God profit. So listen, if you want to be relevant going forward, you need to align with what, obviously Motley Fool is referring to as the Amazon of real estate. And it's not just Motley Fool, it's a lot of other companies as well. A lot of other essentially financial securities companies that are saying the same thing. So take this seriously. I'd love to talk with you about joining Julie and I. Yes, Julie and I would love to be your sponsor at EXP. Text us directly at 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. If you have somebody else you're talking to about EXP and you've already made a commitment to them, then absolutely move forward and have them be your sponsor, but do not delay, because the best days for EXP haven't even arrived yet. It's definitely, this is going to be probably the most incredible run for all of you who have taken advantage of the opportunities at EXP. And like I said, last best business opportunity, but in order for you to get the benefit from it, don't delay. Don't say you're going to think about it. Don't say you're too busy. Don't say you're going to take a look at it and you're going to circle back in 6 months or a year. Do it today. Have that conversation today. If you guys need me for anything, it's 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. Have a fantastic day.
This program has been a presentation by Tim and Julie Harris, Real Estate Coaching. For more information on our real estate coaching and training programs, visit our website at timandjulieharris.com. Remember to tune in weekdays at noon for upcoming shows. And until next time, thank you for listening to Real Estate Coaching Radio with Tim and Julie Harris.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.